I told my partner her food stunk. She started crying and she kicked me off the ambulance. Yeah, that really happened. I was super socially awkward. I was afraid of what people would think about me, but I was also unfiltered and I would say things that weren't prudent all the time. That actually happened where I was working with a partner that was from a different part of the world, and to me, her food was not smelling good. It sure as heck didn't taste good, in my opinion. And I was 18 years old, and I went ahead and told her, and it offended her so much that she started crying. She kicked me off the ambulance and wanted me to take the New York City subway back to the ambulance base. Not having good interpersonal skills is something I identify with. It affected me at work and even in my personal life. It affected the quality of women that I met, if ever meeting any at all. It was hindering not just my professional life, but also my personal life. Because when you go through life being sheltered from certain things, or being in one type of environment where honesty is actually a good thing, when you go to a place where you have to be professionally prudent, where you have to proceed with caution because you have to take under consideration and be empathetic of the person's situation or their feelings, and you have no experience with this, it may not be the easiest thing in the world. And that's why I want to make this video, to give you some perspective, to give you some tips, and to help you the way I've been able to help myself and countless others. So check it out. I used to show up to work sagging my uniform pants. I used to show up to work socially awkward in the professional setting because I came from the hood setting, from a New York City hood setting. I came from showing up to work smelling like cigarettes and smelling like the party that I was at a few hours before. Every other word was a curse word. I would braid half my hair and the other half of the afro was just swinging in the hair in the air. Socially awkward wasn't even a term. It was just something that I thought I was being myself. I thought I was being cool. I thought that I was being authentic. But at the end of the day, I was being out of place. I wasn't being prudent. I wasn't being professional. It was hindering my progress. Proceeding through your work shift, not being able to communicate at the level everybody else is, proceeding through your work shift, not being able to be effective at getting through to your patients, getting through to your colleagues, getting through to the other members of the healthcare team. It's not a good feeling. I remember almost after every single encounter, I would think to myself, what are they thinking? Should I have just held back and not speak up? Could I have spoken more clearly? Is there something that I could have done to make the thing go by smoother? Was there something that I did wrong? And it was like an imposter syndrome thing where I would catch myself having these thoughts because I was corrected very often by people that were further along on toning down the ghetto-ness. I was instructed and encouraged to tone down being so New Yorker, being such from the city. Remember, I'm a high school dropout who was arrested at the age of 13. I'm a high school dropout who was raised by a single mother in poverty. I'm a high school dropout who's been shot at, who's been in gangs and did all these things. And then I became an EMT, and becoming an EMT changed my life. It saved my life. But at the beginning of the phases of the transitions, of the transformations in EMS, I still had it like very, very obvious that I was coming from this type of environment. You could still pick it up on me when you meet me in person or maybe through these videos. You could take a person out the hood, but you can't take the hood out them. You just learn how to be able to tone it down a little bit. But when hood people walk around with their headphones singing the rap song out loud on their way to a job interview, that used to be me, smoking cigarettes, listening to Get Rich or Die Trying on the loud headphone slash Walkman and singing the lyrics verbatim. Like literally, guys, there's rap songs that you will learn more than your social security number. And these rap songs, they infiltrate your mind and they alter your behavior. And that's what used to happen to me, where I used to show up to work feeling like I was living the rap song. That's why a lot of people are in jail. And this is like the epitome of social awkwardness, because it's not only a facade you're putting up, but you also have a little bit of low self-esteem because you're out of your element. You're around proper people. There's other situations that are all pretty much the same, whether it's lack of confidence or lack of comfort because you're out of your element. At the end of the day, all these things can lead to one thing, which is being socially awkward, which is being out of place, which is behaving in such a way where you stick out like a sore thumb, where you feel like everybody's looking at you, where you feel like this is a place where you don't belong. But then there came a point where I was tired of postponing what needed to be done. There came a point where I wanted to improve my social skills. So what did I do? I eventually found the Barnes and Noble bookstore had a section that was catered to self development. This was like an oasis for me that I didn't even know I was existed. I didn't even know that I needed. Like there's literally books that teach you how to start a conversation. There's books that teach you how to win friends. There's books that teach you how to influence people. There's books dedicated to so many different things. And nowadays, you have artificial intelligence and YouTube videos that'll teach you the same thing that are in the books in 5 minutes. And that's how I made the switch. I exposed myself to self improvement content and started to apply the things that I learned. Then I changed my circle and got around people that were more ambitious minded, people that wanted to do bigger and better things, like go to paramedic school, like go to nursing school, like start a business, like sell cars on the side, like do things more than just working on the ambulance. They had other endeavors going on outside of the ambulance. So one of the best ways to go ahead and improve your social skills, number one, is to review content dedicated to this. But be mindful because a lot of times they want to blame your childhood trauma. They want to blame this. They want to blame that. And they're trying to entertain you intellectually about understanding what is the cause of your social awkwardness. And there's a long laundry list, most likely, but what does that really solve? It doesn't solve much. You did take the right step, though, because the first step to solving something is to be conscious that it's even happening. So if you're socially awkward and you notice it, all right, now let's get to work. And one of the best ways to get to work is to apply self improvement content that makes you a better man. It makes you a well rounded individual. Number two, gain your confidence. Every 24 hours, you get a new day that comes up. But every 24 hours, you need to gain that confidence. A lot of times, you're socially awkward and you're not feeling well and you're talking and fumbling the way you're supposed to proceed because you're not having trust in yourself. What is confidence? Confidence is a solution for social anxiety. Confidence is to confide in self. Confidence is to confide in self. And what is confiding in self is just trust yourself. So if you want to be able to trust yourself at the highest level, you got to follow through on the things that you said you would do. Go ahead. Let the intellectuals break down to you all the scientific and statistic reasons on why being socially awkward happens. But at the end of the day, work on your confidence. Follow through on what you said you would do. If you read the self improvement books, then go ahead and apply what you read. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Proverbs from the Bible is the most self improvement you could ever find. The book Proverbs in the Bible will teach you everything you need to know about wisdom and how to treat women and how women should treat you and what life should be like as a person who wants bigger and better things out of life. So go read the book of Proverbs or go to the Barnes and Noble that there is near you if they haven't gone out of business, but go to Amazon, do whatever you have to do. There's so many things at your disposal right now. The phone that you're holding, the TV that you're watching this video on, the tablet has the world at your fingertips. If you're socially awkward and you're not doing anything about it, that's why you're still socially awkward, because you're not trusting yourself. How can you gain confidence from lack of work? And this is the good thing about being an EMT. This is the good thing about being a paramedic, because you deal with so many different personalities that what ends up happening is what used to be your weaknesses at one point in your life are now your strengths. Just like me. Like, guys, look at me. I've been able to reach over 10 million people worldwide on online forums, podcast interviews, YouTube interviews, speaking at the US Capitol, writing books and going through medical school, and I've treated a lot of people in my professional life, and I've met a lot of people in my personal life, and it's all intertwined. But it would have never happened if I would have stayed and accepted the fact that I was socially awkward, that I was just a ghetto person who didn't know how to speak, didn't know how to blend in. But in reality, being this way is actually a blessing in disguise, because it makes you a chameleon. You know when to turn it on and when to turn it off. Turning it's not that you're being a different person. It's just that you got to learn how to navigate in different scenarios. Bro, the last thing you want is to be socially awkward while telling a family member that their loved one is in cardiac arrest and there's no coming back. The last thing you want is to have a group of drunk people who are aggressive and don't know how to act, and now you made things worse and they just assaulted you. The last thing you want is to have someone willing to hurt you and you're not able to de-escalate the situation because you don't have social skills. The last thing you want is to offend your partner the way I did. The last thing you want is to have your lack of social skills be the reason why you don't progress in life. So here's some more tips for you. Always understand, people like to speak about themselves more than they like to speak about anything else. So one of the best ways to go ahead and not seem socially awkward is to just ask people, how was your weekend? How do you feel? Do you want something to eat? Like, make it about them so that they're comfortable speaking. And then when you speak, they're more receptive to what you got to say. Another thing that you can do, especially when you got to correct a partner, use the sandwich method, which basically you start with a compliment, you correct them or share with them that uncomfortable information that you need to share with them, and then finish with a compliment again. So there's certain times where you got to tell your partner, like, yo, this is what it is. This is what's going on, and you got to fix it. But sometimes you could say it in such a way where it doesn't seem like you're a tyrant. It doesn't seem like you're trying to boss them around. There's people skills that you will acquire the more you proceed through life. And one of the best ways for you to go ahead and make people feel comfortable is to compliment them, to ask them questions about their day. I had a time where a partner of mine was being passively aggressive. We had a patient, they threw acid on the patient's face in the Bronx. His face was literally melting, and my partner, for some strange reason, in front of the police officers, in front of the firefighters, in front of our paramedic student, was acting passively aggressive. He was acting like a little bitch, and he was supposed to be a man, but in reality, he was acting worse than a little girl. On scene, in front of the patient. This guy was the definition of socially awkward. He was the definition of not having personal skills, because you got to also be able to learn how to control your emotions. If you can't be demonstrating to everybody what you feel when things hit the fan. So when you're working on a hot scene, when you're working on a critical patient, you got to leave that at the door, but he didn't. So what did I do? I used my resources. So there'll be times where you identify socially awkward people, and you'll be able to navigate through that situation because you were once socially awkward. So what did I do? I used my resources. I asked the firefighters for help because my partner pretty much checked out. I asked the paramedic student for help. We transported the patient expeditiously. We gave a notification to the hospital. And once we got in the ambulance, in the back of an ambulance similar to this one, I asked my partner, what the heck is wrong with you? But I did it in front of the paramedic student because I wanted witnesses. Also, be very mindful when confronting people. You want to have a paper trail. Do it in front of the camera that's in front of the ambulance. Do it where things are documented, where you have witnesses, because you don't want anybody accusing you of doing something you weren't supposed to do. The video started off with being socially awkward, but eventually you will stop being socially awkward and you have to address somebody in the future, and make sure you do it under those circumstances. My partner didn't want to change. He ended up not being my partner. I corrected him in the back of the ambulance. I did it prudently, and I was able to control my emotions because it was really upsetting. And I actually wanted to put hands on him, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, we kept it pushing, and eventually he became somebody else's problem to deal with. And that's one of the levels of mastery that you'll reach, where you're so socially prudent that you're able to deal with very, very strenuous situations a lot easier. Because, like I said before, and I'll say again, my people, the only things that are difficult are the ones you're not prepared for. So, better prepare by improving your social skills, by improving your emotional intelligence, by improving your stress resiliency and your stress capabilities. And how do you do that? I said it before: work out, gain your confidence every 24 hours. If you're not making your bed, if you're not eating correctly, if you're using the websites, like brothers, if you're using the websites, I know your self-esteem is through the ground. Like after you finish, 10 seconds later, you're like, damn, what did I do? That felt disgusting. How is it that I started with one type of video and nowadays I'm watching something totally off the hinges, something totally weird? You know what I'm talking about. Privacy doesn't exist anymore. If you're embarrassed about what's in your web browser history, I highly recommend you stop it immediately. You know what I'm talking about. How can you not be socially awkward if you're doing those things or things that are similar to it? How can you expect something positive, a positive outcome from something that's negative? Whether it's the website or your eating or your lack of exercise or your lack of drinking water or your lack of spirituality, whatever it is, there's a root cause for it. Address that root cause. That's what I did. And it's helped me tremendously. Once again, I went from being socially awkward, being this ghetto guy from the hood, to now being able to communicate in two different languages, Spanish and English, at a high level. And if I can do it, you can do it too. Don't ever pedestalize the person, just pedestalize the work that they did to get there. Because if you put in the same type of work, then you'll be able to get the same or even better results. So yeah, man, I was just like you, bro. I went from being socially awkward, that guy that people felt kind of weird around, or I felt that they felt weird around. Then eventually I was able to change it because I started using self-improvement content from books. Then I started teaching CPR and first aid. So I started meeting nurses and doctors and realized that they were just like me. Then I went to paramedic school and I started mentoring new paramedics after becoming a paramedic and teaching EMTs how to do their skills and teaching all these different healthcare providers on how to do first aid and things along those lines. And eventually I started training people, like I just mentioned. And then I increased my confidence by also increasing my education. I became the valedictorian of paramedic school. Then I went to medical school, became a doctor, became an author, started a YouTube channel. Like, guys, the lack of social awkwardness is because of the work that was put in. So if you're being socially awkward, don't let these people, these intellectuals, entertain you for too long on why and what. It's, bro, you're just not putting in the work. Work works. Like, I was just like you, and if I can snap out of it, so can you. So here's the solution in a nutshell. If you want to transition from being socially awkward to a person who helps a lot of people, who is able to not feel socially awkward and is confident and impacts a lot of lives, just get to work on it. It's that simple. And that's the same analogy that you can use for everything else in life. I hope this helps.